So class, we're in week 7, and we just got done dealing with China, which I hope you found very fascinating. I hope you always find every subject fascinating. And then this week when we do Persia, I want to admit that the first several lectures are going to be probably hard to follow. It's kind of hard even for me sometimes, in a sense. I have to go back over just because when we're dealing with ancient empires, kind of like when we went over ancient China, or just when we go over any of these ancient kingdoms, you have to refresh your memory on certain places, and you have to get out the map because many of the nations that we're talking about no longer exist. And so in any case, it may just be a kind of hard for you to follow. But what I'm hoping that you do is, as we do with every week's topic, that you get enough to follow a mental picture of where we're at. And then when I go over Zoroastrianism, that will really, I think, stick more. That's again why I use the topic of world religion. And later this week I'll kind of show you some more interesting videos that I post on announcements. Now, I've told this to some of you, and I might have said it before, but I want to say it again. Anytime I throw up video on announcements, videos, you are not required to watch them unless I would say that you are. So I want you to kind of pay attention every time that there's an announcement up. But often, especially when we do discussions and I see a certain theme keeps popping up, or questions that people are asking, if I find an article or a video that addresses it in more detail, I'll like to throw it up there on the announcement for you guys to watch. Okay, so that's what I'm doing there. So in any case, you guys are now really getting familiar with a lot of things that people don't know about. One, that Buddhism doesn't originate in China or Japan, but it comes out of India. Right there, you're already more knowledgeable about a lot of things than on these topics than many people. China is a major world player. It is rising, and so I hope you realize and appreciate that the knowledge that you just learned is a great backdrop to a world player right now, like a leader in current politics. So, this should also give you a chance to study China even more, in modern China. I do it in my 107 class, but the Chinese Communist Revolution is very interesting, and the end results, which is having a communist state that actually is more of a capitalist state now, is also interesting. So, just as a side note, the legacy of Confucianism is probably stronger on China than communism, but it's officially being led by a communist party, and that makes China kind of complex in terms of figuring it out. And this is where again we historians come in. There's what people say, and there's what they do, and there's focusing on labels and then focusing on actions. And so there's a historical process that China's gone through that makes everything kind of make sense. But just from an outsider's point of view, if you look really quickly in at China, it's very strange that one of the leading capitalist nations in the world is led by an officially anti-capitalist party. Okay, so in any case, it's of interest, and if you want to talk about that ever, feel free to give me a call. But this is not the time to go over that. All right, so we have an election debate thingy tonight. I made this announcement and kind of discussed into my U.S. history classes that, I think most of us noticed that two of the most unliked people in America are running for president. And it's coming quick. And you know, I'm not going to say exactly the same things that I said in my U.S. History announcement, because I linked them more to thinking about U.S. history in light of the elections. But just to say, this isn't the worst election cycle that we've seen. We've had some series of some pretty gnarly elections. But we are a world empire right now, and that's not really debatable, although many Americans are in denial of that. But because we're an empire, our elections are noticed by the world, because everything that the United States does, regardless of who's in power, affects the world. And what I want to encourage you right now is, I see a lot of people on Facebook, say like, I'm going to delete, if you vote for this Trump or Clinton, delete me. A lot of anger is taking place, a lot of social division. We basically have right now the black-white, police killing or not, or who do you support? Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter. The issue of Latinos and illegal immigration and immigration reform. This issue of a wall about the tone of things that were said by Donald Trump. And this has really led to a lot of divisiveness into our country. But my take that I'd like to say is this, is that I think that you should dialogue with each other. As a person who studies history and U.S. foreign policy, Trump and Hillary Clinton have been around for a long time, and there are plenty of non-biased sources that can trace the things that they've said and did over the decades. And they've been very controversial characters, both of them. Both of them have been. And there's reasons why people like either candidate at times, and you should listen to that in the sense of having a dialogue. I want to encourage a dialogue, but I also want to say this. One of the biggest problems I see in American politics is that people don't really research what people actually are saying or doing, or they look at things in a very narrow and limited way. So for example, I gave this to my U.S. history class. When Obama was running the first time, I remember hearing all these AM radio station guys, very conservative groups, saying Obama is a socialist, who's a communist, he's a radical that wants to change America. And then I saw him get endorsed by The Economist, which is one of the oldest pro-capitalist globalist magazines from the UK. And I thought, whoa, what's everybody here missing? That people who are the wealthy, at the center of power of wealth and generation, of big business, would want to endorse Obama when these popular sensationalists, AM radio show guys, are saying that he's anti. And so the interesting thing is that Obama supporters didn't want to associate him with big business. That's not something that the pro-Obama camp wanted to say, oh, hey, look, Obama's endorsed by The Economist. That makes him look kind of like the center of corruption, to a lot of people. But then the Republicans didn't want to give him credit for that, because they're trying to be the pro-business one, and they're trying to sell him as being a threat to business when big business is actually endorsing him, at least in the UK. So do you see what I'm saying? Obama historically has deported more people than any Republican. Again, the Democrats don't want to admit that, because they're trying to make themselves look like more pro-immigrant, and the Republicans don't want to mention that because they're trying to make him look like he's weak on immigration. So this garbage of what we have to go through as working people to try to follow what's really going on is difficult. The greatest conspiracy in American politics is not some sort of secret thing that, a shadow government behind us. But everything that we can study in front of us that we just don't have time, or that we're not taking the time to actually study, and that we have to break down on our own, because the media is so pathetic. I'm talking about mainstream media does no real analysis. So don't be hard on your brothers and sisters and family for who they vote for, or who they don't vote for, or if they don't vote. You know, because it's a mess out there. But if you really kind of care and you want to be involved in politics, my thought is, then, you know, take the time and then engage with people and hear different ideas, and then, you know, we go move forward from there. Be good to each other, because you know, we're coming up into some complicated times, and regardless of who gets elected, we have a lot of unresolved issues that we need to address in America, our great nation. And I'm hoping, as we look in, you know, world history and world religions, what we realize is that human beings have been struggling with all these kind of problems for a very long time. Nothing new. We're just in the now, and now we're dealing with what is going on now. I like that for being profound. Anyways, all right, I'll end there. I hope you have a good week. We'll be in touch.